I was an altar boy at one point.
Oh, really? You must have had a lot of
It's just
confidence.
because the priest came to visit us and, would you like to try? I said, yeah, I thought that's cool.
Okay.
You know, I was ringing the bells in church and lighting up the candles, but...
So Christmas is a special time then?
Yeah, for everyone, yeah, Christmas is a special time because, listen, as a kid, you know what's coming, right?
Films and presents.
This is what the kids...
But was there any religion in that, in the Christmas for you?
You know, there's a layer to it, right? So the church, there's layers, but you have to take it how the individual receives it, right? Yeah. Christmas is for adults, for believers like Roman Catholics, it's the birth of Christ, right? So they celebrate the birth of Christ. But for kids,
it's presents.
It's presents.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So for you, when you were an altar boy, did you have a belief in God at that point?
I never had.
Oh, really? Even when you were singing in the church?
I always, because I used to go to church every Sunday, and this was back in South Africa, and this was the Polish church, which, you know, mass, and then we had Polish lessons with the priests about Poland. This is South Africa.
They're quite strong on Catholicism. Polish people are quite strong on Catholicism, aren't they?
Yeah, we are, yeah. But
even today, Poland's quite Catholic.
Yes, we are. Poland is.
So communism couldn't really eradicate it. We know the communist rule, and they tried to.
They tried to.
Yeah.
But you know But the question is how deep is their faith? You know.
I don't know. I've been to Poland. They seem to be quite strong.
It's a lot of the stuff is for show, right? I know people that go to church just because it's mass, it's Christmas, they go to church. I always have arguments with my parents, right? You know, because I'm an atheist and they're believers.
Oh, okay.
So every time we start religion, we argue and we get upset, and my parents get upset. I said, look, if you have a strong belief, be prepared to defend it.
I agree with that.
If you can't defend it, that means there's no, you know, either your belief is not strong enough or you believe for no good reason. So right, that's my position.
I agree with that.
So
yeah, I agree with
and
that.
This applies to all people of faith, right?
Yeah. Or non-faith as well.
Sorry.
Or non-faith as well.
Or non-faith, you know, I can defend my position.
Okay.
I can rationalise my position.
Sure.
You know, if you're in a conversation, I've got friends, you know, Muslim friends, and they're good people because we can talk to one another and they won't get upset. If I show them, hey, look at this nonsense. Oh yeah, it is nonsense. Yeah, but we believe it. So fair enough.
If they say it's nonsense, then they don't really believe it.
Well, it's not for me to decide. I mean, there's things like you're Muslim, right? So there's things in scriptures that just make no sense at all, right?
So, but the thing is, in scriptures, there's miracles. Damien, right? Your name is
Damien. Yeah.
Thing is, a miracle like, say, the virgin birth, right? Would you say that's, from your perspective, nonsensical?
Sorry?
Would you say the virgin birth is nonsensical?
It is nonsense.
Okay. So, if God allowed that to happen, not allowed it, if God decreed it to happen, and hypothetically, if God exists, because obviously you don't believe in God, but I believe in God, it wouldn't be nonsensical if God does exist, because God just says be and it is.
But there's a lot of ifs.
Sure, but
I don't believe in ifs.
Okay, no. So I think
I believe in what I accept what we know.
Okay.
And this is so.
So look, what I'm trying to do, Damien, is I'm trying to say it is a proposition, right? However, if, and we can go to the if God exists or not, we can have that conversation.
Religion's got no other choice apart from if.
No. We can argue about God's existence, but I'm saying conceptually, if there is a God, miracles are logical. They don't have to be irrational. Do you understand conceptually what the issue is?
That's an if.
So let's discuss the if. Let's discuss the if.
We can, why don't we talk about what's real and what we know, right?
Okay. So look, what I was trying to get to is, before we speak about God, I was trying to get to the point, Damien, that if there is a God, and if it can be established that there is a God, then something like a miracle wouldn't be irrational. That's all I was trying to say.
Well, you know, if you believe, I mean, if you believe in a God in religion, you open up a can of worms, right? You can believe in anything, right?
Not necessarily. That's another point I'll get to.
You can believe in anything. If you believe in a God, until we can demonstrate that a God really exists, you can believe in anything, and you can, you know, sticks turn into snakes, and people walk on water. You know, oceans.
Okay, so let's go into this, right? Say we have the laws of nature. We have natural things happening, right? And then we have something that we perceive to be unnatural, like a virgin birth.
Yeah, but let's see.
No, I'm just sticking to concepts here.
You're mixing reality with myth and story, right?
No, I'm giving conditional.
Have you ever seen a virgin birth? Has anyone seen a virgin birth?
No.
Can't we demonstrate?
Well, actually, no. From our perspective, it happened at least once.
Can we demonstrate, you know, medicine is really out there, right? We are very, medicine is moving, you know, what's the word?
Vaccines and
developing
cancer research,
research and stuff into medicine. Have we ever demonstrated that a virgin birth is even possible?
Okay,
physically.
So the answer to that is we don't need to. What we do need to do is talk about God's existence, because if there is a God,
talk about ifs.
No. So that's what we're going to get to. What I was trying to get to is
let's state what we know before we go to the ifs. Because we're jumping with you're pulling away from what we know to the ifs.
Yeah, but the reason why I'm doing that is to show you conceptually it's not irrational to believe in a miracle. If there is a God. So let's talk about if there is a God.
That's in the realm of if. What we know, what we know, a virgin birth is impossible.
No, that's not what we know.
That's what we know.
No, it depends on where you start from. So if you start from there is no God like you do, then you'd say it's impossible. But if you start from my perspective that there is a God, then it's possible. So let's talk about if there's a God. Because you said you can defend your beliefs, right?
You're taking me to another place.
No, that place is...
You're trying to take me to another place.
No, that's not another place, because you agreed with me, it's conditional.
Sorry?
It's conditional.
Yeah, but we're talking about ifs. You're going into, you're taking me into the world of the ifs, and
no, I'm not.
Anything is possible, right?
Now,
flying horses.
Yes. Now I'm talking about the antecedent. I'm talking about God. Okay, so let's talk about God. What is your position? You earlier on said you were never, you were a choir boy, but you didn't have faith. And now you're an atheist.
I was brought up as a Roman Catholic.
Sure.
But I was never a believer.
Sure. And so today you would describe yourself as an atheist. You'd say,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, sure. Now, I describe myself as a theist. I say there is a God. Okay. Now, have you looked into the arguments for God's existence?
I have looked into Islam. I've looked into.
No, not religion. We're talking about arguments for God's existence.
Well, this is religion. Various religions argue for the existence of God. The concept of a God comes from religions.
Not necessarily. You can have deism. Deism is belief in God without religion.
Yes, but the concept
like Einstein, Spinoza, and these type of people.
Yes, but the concept of a God comes from religion. The religions introduced the concept of a God.
Right.
Right. So what people have done is, okay, well, I actually don't believe in all the scriptures, but I still, okay, there must be a creator or whatever they call that, this thing, right? A God or creator.
But that's not necessarily true. We've had people in history who came up with the belief in God, but they did not subscribe to a religion necessarily. So let's talk about this. So say something like the human brain, right? Our human brain is very complicated. It's more complicated than any supercomputer in the world. If you happen to be staring at all of this stuff, you won't get this sign like your memory's full, right? You'll recall things from your childhood. You'll be able to remember emotions. You'll be able to read people's facial expressions and tell whether they're happy or they're sad. So the brain is something far greater than a supercomputer. How would you explain that? When from my perspective, I would say there is design behind the brain.
How would I explain that? It's a brain. It's a function of the brain. It's very complex. We don't understand the brain fully yet. It's an organ of your physical body.
Okay, so
your brain is everything. This is your this is your you know this is it. Well, your brain is you. So
okay. What I'm trying to get to is, I think there's a category mistake here. I'm not talking about the mechanical workings of the brain. I'm speaking about the existence of the brain.
Yeah.
Like, where did it come from? What is the what's the best
Humans
explanation?
developed the brain.
Humans developed. Okay, how?
It's like all animals develop brains and through evolution, right?
Okay, so that evolutionary process, was that without God's interference? There was nothing to do with God.
It's like what religion is not you, but religions. What are they doing? They putting this God entity into a natural phenomena. There's no need for this agent to be part of this natural phenomena, right? Why? Why do you need to put it? We know evolution is real, and we are still in a process. Evolution's never stopped. People are evolving. Animals are still evolving, right? You know, 400,000 million, just plucking,
The first 4 billion
years out of my arse, so to speak. But let's say 500,000 years ago, we were more hairier than we are now, right? Right. We're still humans, but we look different, right?
I think what I'm saying is, I think you misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the process. So we can discuss the process, whether it's actually effective the way that people mention it. What we're speaking about here is whether you believe in natural selection and random mutations leading to a generation of the brain or you don't. How is it that fits with atheism rather than theism? Because as a theist, you can come up with several positions. You can say it was some sort of theistic evolution, or you can say that Darwinian evolution is nonsense and that it was God. There's different things, but how come you mentioned, when I asked you about the design of the brain, you mentioned as if atheism can explain it through evolution? And that for me is a bit problematic.
It's not about that atheism can explain it better or not. Evolution is a process. It's a fact of life, and it doesn't matter if I'm atheist or a theist. Evolution, it's still a process.
But when I asked you,
to do with my religion, my belief.
Sure, Damien. When I asked you about the brain, and I asked you, look, for me, I would look at the complexity of the brain, and I would say that the complexity of the brain goes back to a designer, and you said it goes back to evolution, meaning you have made what I believe is a false dichotomy between God and some natural process.
We developed this brain. Our brain it didn't appear out of nowhere, right? We developed over time. Our brains become bigger and bigger.
Sure, but you think that was done purely by nature without any?
This is a fact. This is the only thing we know. Religion is trying to say no. This is because of something else.
So you're saying we know that there was nothing beyond nature was involved in the creation of the brain.
There is no other solution. There is no other realm that could have affected evolution. All we know is what we know about nature, right? It's nature.
So here's what I would disagree with you. I would say you don't have knowledge of what you just said. You have belief of what you just said. You have a belief that the human brain developed without any divine intervention.
We know about evolution.
No, it's not. It's not what you. It's not.
Evolution. Okay, there's nothing certain about evolution, right? But evolution.
But if nothing's certain, then it's not knowledge.
But hang on. There's no 100% certainty in evolution. Evolution, the concept of evolution is the best explanation we can give at this present moment in time
Okay, so even if
us being us, right?
Okay, even if that was the case, the way you did,
we can
sure.
Because obviously science changes, right? It's
evolving.
Sorry.
Evolving.
It's not okay.
Yeah.
It's not like religions. No, the book says this, so it has to be it, and we will defend our position to.
Okay, but you said we know that it was done naturally without God. That's what you said you know.
It's the only explanation we have at this moment.
Okay, so I want to ask you this question, Damien. Is that what scientists say, or is that what you believe?
It's what people which are smarter than me say. Yes.
Okay, so in that case, what you're doing is you're outsourcing your thinking.
Well, I haven't got the capacity because I'm not a biologist. You know, I read my books. I read my papers, my scientific papers.
Sure.
You know, the ones that really interest me, space and all stuff.
Sure.
You know,
It comes down to belief.
it's not about belief. Science is demonstrable, right? It's not about me. I've got the choice not to accept.
Why do you believe in it?
So just
Because
to.
it's the only explanation we have.
Sorry, can we just complete this conversation, please?
It's not certain, but it's the best example we have.
So,
It's the best,
Damien, on this.
not example. Sorry, it's the best model we have for us becoming human.
So, Damien, what if your knowledge of what the scientists believe, or what the scientists have come up with, is not correct because
it's a possibility.
it's a possibility. Okay.
We don't know everything.
Okay.
Science
So
doesn't know everything.
yeah.
It doesn't claim to know everything.
Yeah. So here's the point. There's a common perception built around through popular films, through culture, through other types of things, in which this perception of yours is quite popular, which is that science has shown that God has absolutely nothing to say when it comes to biology, and evolution does away with God's existence.
Science doesn't say that. What science is showing that there is no place for a God. There's no.
I mean, that's not what science is doing, though. No, but
why does God need to be in,
no,
in this equation?
What you just said there, I believe is incorrect, and I'll explain to you why. Okay. So, firstly, God and science are not mutually exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive. It's not like if you believe in God, it's a science stopper. In fact, the belief in God is a science starter. Because remember, science flourished under Christian Europe, under Islamic Middle East and Spain and these places. So for the vast...
Not really. Not really.
You don't think so?
Not really.
How far back does the scientific enterprise go?
You know why the Dark Ages were called the Dark Ages?
It wasn't the Dark Ages for the Muslim world.
I'm talking about Dark Age for Christians.
Right.
When you say religion, science flourishes, it might have been different in the Islamic world, but I'm giving an example of the Christian world. Christianity actually squashed science, and for 500 years we're in the dark.
And do you know the reason behind them doing
Burning of
that?
Alexandria,
Yeah.
all the science that we used to know.
So, do you think that was Christianity, or do you think that was Hellenistic philosophy which dominated the church?
Christians destroyed a lot of science. Christians.
Okay, so look, historically,
They came with the Bible. This is the shit. This is what. The rest is.
okay.
In Islam, it might have been different because I know Islam was. Before Christianity, before Islam was Islam, there were civilizations, were right people, there were smart people. You know, we weren't stupid.
Yeah. We had circumference of the earth, we had loads of
There's a
things.
lot of science that, you know, I'm reading a book about a technology the Romans had. They had little robots, little puppets that move, they have these, it's you know, you think that, what, Romans? Yeah, they were actually...
So let's get back to the point that God is not a science stopper. God is a science starter, if anything, because conceptually... Okay, I'll explain to you why. If we say, look at the last 1,000 years, in which we've had the modern scientific method, the atheists have really come right on the end. Just these last, say, 100 years. For the vast majority of the time, it's been Muslim and Christian scientists. And Christianity is not to blame necessarily for science being stopped. The church was influenced by Greek Hellenistic thinking, so it's a lot more complicated than that.
Greeks were very pro-science.
Greeks had...
There was no conflict.
No, there was. So Greeks, they actually developed what we call proto-science. However, there were some Greek ideas which were science stopping. So even if you were an atheist, if you accepted the Hellenistic beliefs, you would actually go against certain scientific principles. For example, they tried to use experience to show that the theory is correct and the theory is false. Now, what's interesting is Hassan ibn
Say
Haytham.
that again, sorry.
Okay, so they were reconfirming their theories, using observations to confirm their theories, not trying to falsify them. Now, Hassan ibn Haytham, he was a Muslim scientist who lived about 1,000 years ago, and he developed the scientific method, and he developed and pushed the idea of falsification, that you're there to falsify. So the thing which we need to be fair to the Christian world is that it was Hellenistic thinking which had dominated the church thinking, rather than just them saying we believe in the Bible and so on and so forth. Okay, now getting back to his point, science is governed by...
I just may interject. The scientists in the early Roman Empire.
Audible.
This book is really obviously
Okay.
I'm listening to it,
Okay.
but really good.
Good.
Richard Carrier.
Okay, also
Very good.
Patricia Farah has a very good book, Science of 4,000 Year History. And she
There's
says...
a lot of science that was forgotten. Remember, especially Christians now, they came in and they destroyed the burning of Alexandria. There's a lot of science that went, not saying everything was right. Obviously, what you're saying is absolutely right.
And also, we also have to remember, atheists also hindered science at points.
Sorry?
Atheists also hindered science at points. We had the Soviet Union, which was being resistant to the Big Bang cosmology, which was also pushing out certain pseudo-scientific ideas, which...
Yeah, but that's different. I mean,
Okay, but anyway, to this point, currently, what the claim that you made, I want to show that's wrong. Science doesn't say that God has nothing to say with biology or anything like that.
it's right. I'm not. That's not what I
Oh,
said.
you're not what you're saying.
That's
Okay.
not what I'm saying. What science is showing that it's not part of the equation. That's all. And they don't say
it's
that
not.
God doesn't exist.
No, science is not saying that though.
But there's no room. There's no.
But you see what's happening here, Damien, is wires are being crossed. Theology, metaphysics, science.
All you're doing is a claim. You're claiming.
No, but I'm trying to show you why. Okay?
But
So,
still a claim though. You can't prove anything.
well,
You
not.
can't demonstrate.
But
You can't demonstrate.
no, but that's not exactly correct.
Because you've got a concept of God, the Christians got a concept, the Jews got a concept of their God, right? And nobody can get it right? So, can
Okay,
God
but
let me ask you a question. Can God do anything?
But Damien, here's the problem. If you say something like that, right? The Christians have a concept of God.
Other gods
Okay.
before,
Christians have a concept of God. Jews have